Hey everyone, this is Terra Lumination. Hi, thanks for hanging out here. Today is a very strange day from my perspective. I just had to make a few comments just to share my perspectives. I'm trying to stay very neutral on this matter. I'm just trying to point out what I would call very significant sacred geometry, certain aspects that are happening in the astrology right now that are pertinent to the whole world, but in some ways especially pertinent to the United States. So some of you know that I live in America. I have that kind of culture. Today, the making of this video, it's early afternoon, June 20th, 2020. And we're right on the tippy cusp of the Cancer new moon eclipse. And it's an extremely tight eclipse. So the sun is going to be at about between 0 to 1 degree Cancer. And the moon will be in 0 to 1 degree Cancer. So that's a very undefined type of, brand new energy. It's like any kind of 0 to 1 degree, it's like the bursting into life of new energy, just like a newborn baby. Like newborn babies don't know what they are. They smile, they laugh, they cry, they pee, they poop and think. They do all sorts of things. They don't know who or what they are. They just are what they are, and they're coming into birth. They are birthing. So what I think is happening right now is that, number one, Earth, our home, is going through a rebirth. Number two, the United States is going through a rebirth, but it's a highly significant rebirth because it marks the very closing end of a 250-year Pluto cycle and the beginning of a 250-year Pluto cycle. It's that the actual birthing process, from my perspective, goes on for a few years, and we're really started. We're actually in the early stages of the birth canal right now. I don't know how else to describe it. Cancerian, representing the motherhood, the womb, the birth. We have a brand new eclipse, new moon. And here are some quirky markers that I'm noticing. Number one, today, 20th of June, 2020, we're right on the cusp of this eclipse. Also, on the cusp of this eclipse, there's a very, very heavily emphasized quincunx type of aspect, which is very awkward. It's an aspect of forced integration. In other words, humanity cannot avoid what it wants to avoid right now. So the only way to handle what it has to handle right now is to face up to it. And so in the United States, my perspective is that Americans are facing Americans. Just in the same way that the United States faced off the British Empire in 1776, America is now facing off the American Empire, American against American, American facing Americans. And we are seeing with like stark, unavoidable, vivid expression through the media, the cameras, our voices, everything. We're seeing the extreme polarities that exist in the United States. None of this is surprising if you look at the chart of the United States. It has some extreme polarities, especially the Cancer-Capricorn polarity, okay, which is really heavily emphasized right now. Like today is the cusp of the Cancer new moon eclipse, and in 2 weeks we have the Cancer-Capricorn full moon eclipse. And from my perspective, that's a very volatile looking eclipse. There's a very hard T-square with Mars and Aries. So that indicates, to me, it's war. To me, it looks like overt, open war. I'm not saying it's actual war, but it could be very combative. America versus America, American versus American. And we're all being forced to integrate, okay? Like we have to. We have to face the harsh truth, the harsh realities about our history, our culture, on both sides of the equation, on all sides of the equation. And one of the things about America is that we're really under a spotlight right now because if you look at the charts, okay, the storyline that I'm iterating here is actually universal. It's for the whole world. The thing is that it's most vividly experienced here in the United States at this very moment in time. It's like the United States is a stage, like a live theater, like a massive Shakespearean play where this is all being acted out at the moment. So the Neptune thing and the Mars thing, okay, over there in Pisces are still at hard angles with the Gemini energy. The Gemini energies aren't finished yet. So there's a tremendous amount of friction, volatility, extreme likelihood of self-destructive, self-effacing behavior, including violent self-expression. And that is going to morph over the next month or so as Mars moves into Aries. And Mars in Aries is going to hard square the Capricorn-Cancer axis in 2 weeks from now. So I just did a practice thing on Instagram. I did a little miniature live stream. I don't know if it works. I know at least 2 people saw it. And so I thought I really actually need to put something on the actual Tarot Illumination YouTube channel itself. So that's what I'm doing here, just trying to let people know that from my perspective as an amateur astrologer, and I do professional tarot, I see this as a historical moment. Right now in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is right at the heart and the core of the United States geographically, there's a big presidential rally that is being held today. It's a highly controversial rally because it was supposed to happen yesterday on this date called Juneteenth, which is a celebration of emancipation of slavery for a particular event, I believe, that happened. Is it in and around? Don't quote me on this. I'm not a historian, but basically the president in America decided, oh, this might be a little awkward. Let's move it from the 19th to the 20th, because the celebration was yesterday. It was to celebrate some emancipation of slaves and slavery. Also, Tulsa, Oklahoma, apparently, from a little clip that I saw, was the home of one of the worst massacres in American slave history. So it's a very controversial rally. So you've got this extreme polarity over here with certain types of Americans. You've got extreme polarity over here with certain types of Americans. And everybody's converging. It's a massive rally. People are coming from all over the country to meet up at this rally. And to me, it looks like a tinderbox. It's like it looks like a, what's the word? Anyway, it looks very volatile. There's a lot of people with a lot of joy, a lot of anger, a lot of insistence about this has to be, and a lot of insistence about how this has to be. And it's going to be done in a typical classic American political rally where all the parties face off against each other in a peaceful rally, okay? But as we've seen in the last few months, peaceful rallies where people peacefully demonstrate and protest and voice their opinion, because we can do that in this country. We have freedom of speech. We have the right to freedom of speech. Now we have freedom of press. We have the right to bear arms. We have a lot of privileges here, but it doesn't mean we can just go, pillage and slaughter. So what's happening here in Tulsa today, again, I'm not a politician. I'm not a newscaster. I would never normally do a video like this, but it just seems extremely pertinent to American history right now and the eclipse. So we've got this kind of energy happening today in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And my feeling is that let's let us observe. Let us see what happens. If you're not at the rally and you're interested in these things, observe and let's see what happens. I have stuff to do. You guys have stuff to do. But by this time tomorrow, my guess is that there will be a little bit of history that comes into making today and tonight and tomorrow as an outcome of this rally. I don't know what that's going to be, but I do see the volatility. I see the quincunx energy is forcing a face-off, forcing an integration, forcing people to have to face the worst sides of themselves as they try to defend and protect the best sides of themselves, okay? And all sides are being held accountable. All sides, and it's not just this side, it's not just that side. All sides are being held accountable. And so I see this as an inevitable pressure. I also see and feel that this president is like a catalyst for radical upheaval and change. In other words, somebody has to personify the experience. And he has the sort of characteristics of someone who really doesn't care what anybody thinks about him. So it makes him bulletproof. It makes him immune to his enemies and his detractors. So he basically says and does what he wants. He makes it up as he goes along. And even his own party can't stop him. So it's going to be a spectacular experience. That's what I'm anticipating. And so I'm very keen to see what happens. All I know is that it's going to happen. It's happening tonight and over until tomorrow. And the next 2 weeks, we're going to lead up to the full moon, okay? So I'm not going to do any astrodoodles. I'm not going to do any group soul readings or anything like that. I just wanted to make a note here. Please understand, this is an extremely volatile moment in astrological history, from my perspective. Cancer new moon eclipse, Mercury retrograde, Venus, what is it? Saturn, Uranus. Anyway, it's a whole pile of retrogrades that's forcing everyone and everything to re-examine itself. The whole of the United States is being forced to re-examine itself. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. It was just a personal discourse. I'm not a politician. I'm not a historian. I don't have any financial benefits on this side or whatever I say or what I do for any of this. I'll probably demonetize the video just to make extra sure, okay? So take care, everybody. Remember, be loving, be loved, okay? And number one is love thyself, okay? It's not a bad thing to do. Okay, take care. I got to switch off now. Let's see if I can stop this. Okay, stop. There we go.